Hello, Ibu Kristen and my friends. My name is Gharizi Matiini, and today I would like to present the two articles from this week meetings. The first article titled A Developmental Approach to Bilingual Research, The Effects of Multi-Language Experience from Early Infancy to Old Age by Robert Philippi, Dean de Souza, Peter Bright, and in 2017. Overall, this articles is talking about reviewing several techniques, several instruments, and also hypotheses related to bilingual research, and also proposing a developmental approach to find the cognitive competence in bilingual research. Okay, now let's move on to the outline of these articles. The first one is the introductions. It will be the background study of the background knowledge of the study and also some early studies on bilingualism. It also tells you about Simon test instruments. This is one of the performance tasks in doing the bilingual research, and also bilingual cognitive advantage hypothesis. There is also neuroimaging techniques and developmental approach. This one, that is proposed by the authors, and there will be some discussions regarding with the raising children in multilingual environment and the effect on multi-language acquisitions across the lifespan. Okay, now let's move on to introductions, everyone. In these introductions, the authors give us the factual informations related to bilingual children in UK. So actually in UK, bilingual school children are labeled as the AEL, or English as the additional language students. It means that the bilingual children or bilingual schools in UK is still considered lower rank, lower than monolingual English speakers. So it is becoming the background why the authors started to reviewing several techniques and several instruments in bilingual research. And next is the previous studies on bilingualism. So bilingual research is started from 1922, 1923. It is about bilingual and multilingual children, and they were compared with IQ measurement. The results of this research study is that bilingual and multilingual children rank lower in IQ scores than the monolingual speakers. But on the other hand, in 1962, the results was reversed. It means that bilingual speakers and monolingual speakers have a higher IQ score than the monolingual speakers. And the next one is 2014, where socioeconomic status, or SES, becomes the highlights other considerations in doing bilingual research. And the next one is 1986 and 1998, 2013, 2016, and there's 2017, where the performance task instruments were used as one of the data collection procedures in bilingual research. Okay. Now move on to Simon task instrument. This kind of instrument is very infamous, one of the infamous instruments in doing the bilingual research, where the participants are required to respond as quickly and accurately as possible to the colors shown by them. These instruments can be done both manual or computerized. If we want to have computerized activity in Simon task instrument, so the participant can just click the mouse wherever every color is shown to them. The faster the click and the more correct the colors, it means it has a higher cognitive competence from the participants. And it manipulates congruent and incongruent trial. Congruent trial is the response which has the same sides of stimuli, and incongruent trial is the opposite side of the stimuli. Both of the congruent and incongruent trial are correct response. So, and that this kind of the response is called Simon effect. The benefit of the conducting Simon task is it doesn't require different age of group modification. So every kind of age group can be participated in this Simon task instrument. But the drawbacks of the Simon task is first, the task has no relation to bilingual's cognitive controls. Many researchers which conducted Simon task instrument has no significant effect, has no significant relations between bilinguals and cognitive control, and it needs lifespan research to get inaccurate findings. So it also the one that being the proposals from the authors that if you want to have the Simon task instrument, it is very important to have it to have a developmental approach. It means the lifespan, not only just 1 to 2 times performance task. Okay, now let's move on to bilingual advantage hypothesis. This is also one of the infamous, very popular hypothesis from Bialystok. It means that it is stated that bilingual speakers and monolingual speakers have some advantageous issue in the uh, what is it than the monolingual speaker. The hypothesis is taken from the cumulative evidence based on the inhibitory control. Inhibitory control here means the control to what is it to not have the impulsive response from the participant. And then, however, several researchers conducting cumulative evidence found no accurate evidence in cognitive performance because bilingual advantage hypothesis is done using the performance tasks such as the Simon task instrument, and they have no correct evidence. What is it? Significant evidence in cognitive performance. Okay, others claim bilingual advantage hypothesis proves no global, solid, or consistent base via the process of becoming multilingual because the authors claim that every bilingual or multilingual speakers has developmental factors in being bilingual or multilingual speakers. So it needs some lifespan methods of research if we want to find the cognitive competence in bilingual advantage hypothesis. Okay. Now let me go to bilingual and neuroimaging, bilingualism and neuroimaging. So actually, bilingual research can be also done using several medical or medicinal brain scanner, the neuroimaging technique, and the technique reveals the verbal controls mechanism and identifies structural differences between the monolingual and bilingual brain. We know that in our brain there are several language networks. It can be a speech acts or listening tasks or speech tasks, and it is one of the language networks in our brain. And in this technique actually can be scanned. We will know we can from using the neuroimaging technique. According to inhibitory control hypothesis or ICH, bilinguals record domain general inhibitory controls mechanism in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex or DLPFC, one of the language networks. So actually DLPFC, to make it easier to say it, is the the system or the organs from our brain, but focusing on the bilingual speakers, cognitive competence of the bilingual speakers. So actually we can we can see the differences between bilingual speakers and monolingual speakers in accordance to the cognitive processes or inhibitory control in here based on the DLPFC. Okay, the reason why bilinguals outperform monolinguals in executive control is when switching language, bilinguals, the LPFC works more frequently and thus it becomes stronger than monolingual. So the LPFC is the one that we can check if we want to see whether the bilingual have some advantages or outperform monolingual in cognitive controls. Okay, the authors considers lifespan to be the important factors of identifying cognitive characteristics between bilinguals and monolingual. It means that the authors think that even though neuroimaging can be the alternative techniques in bilingual research, but again, lifespan research needs to be done, needs to be the important factors if we want to see the cognitive characteristic between bilinguals and monolingual speakers. Okay, now let's move on to developmental approach to bilingual research. This one is actually the one that proposed by the authors after reviewing the instruments or the techniques and hypotheses from bilingual research. So one of the most important theory that can be used in using the developmental approach is neuroconstructivism. Neuroconstructivism is a theoretical framework that seeks to understand a multidimensional dynamics of development by integrating research from various levels of analysis. So actually neuroconstructivism is the theory about developmental development, language development. But from using this neuroconstructivism, we can see the various levels of analysis, including bilingual cognitive competence analysis using neuroconstructivism. So besides using the Simon task, performance task, using neuroimaging, actually we can use neuroconstructivism uh, as our best the theory or framework when doing the bilingual research. It also identifies the cognitive development by tracing higher level cognitive function back to their low level roots in early childhood. Neuroconstructivism is a developmental research. It means that when we want to have the research about the language, bilingual research, we have to start from the early childhood, from the infant. Okay, the hypothesis is taken from cumulative evidence-based and inhibitory control. However, it needs developmental constraint in order to find the inhibitory control advantage in both bilingual and monolingual. So the authors positively supports about the what is it, bilingual advantage hypothesis and also other techniques of um, bilingual research, but it is also important to have a developmental approach in their bilingual research to make it more accurate findings in cognitive competence. Okay, now let's move on to our discussions for these articles. The first one is raising children in a multilingual environment. The first thing that I would like to say is this one. This is from the authors. Development is key to understanding cognition. Again, many words of development is said in this articles. If we want to see the cognitive competence from the bilingual speakers, we have to also look at the developmental approach, developmental factors from the participant. And bilingual advantage is likely to be underpinned by different mechanisms at different ages. So the authors claim that different even though bilingual speakers have bilingual advantage, but at different ages they have different stage of bilingual advantage, and it needs to seek it, to see it. It needs to seek about it. Bilingual infants in more varied, less predictable language input need to process information efficiently than monolingual infant. Uh, this is related to what Bo Kristen said in our second meeting about even though bilingual infants were raised in bilingual situation, but actually they cannot differentiate between the two of them or one language to another. So it means they need more time to process information if efficiently than monolingual infant. And the next explanation is also related to it. Bilingual infants tend to reduce familiarity preference and bring more novelty preference than monolingual infant. They only think that the language they communicate, that they use, is just one language. So it needs time for them to differentiate one language to another. Okay, now let's move on to another discussions. That is the effect of multi-language acquisition across the lifespan. It is very important to investigate whether the bilingual advantage in controlling interference extended to the auditory attention. The authors believe that even though there are a lot of research in bilingualism and performance tasks and in inhibitory control and cognitive control, but it is very rarely to see about the auditory attention. Okay, so that is why we can investigate bilingual advantage in the terms of auditory attention. The authors found that interference control of bilingual starts to emerge at the age of 7, and the size of this advantage increases at least until age 7. This is from Philippi 2000. 15, Philippine et al. So it means that what is it? The age that the infant bilingual children can differentiate one language to another is start from the 7, and it will increase until at least at the age of 10. It can be more than 10 years old, but at least it needs around 3 to 4 years old to differentiate between one language to another. Next is both neuroimaging and behavioral investigation should aim to developmental trajectory of control processes and focus on differences in specific region from early bilingual experience. The authors claim that even though bilingual research is focusing on performing tasks, but we have to also analyze about bilingual experience. We have to also ask or interview the participants about the experience from them as being bilingual in their situation or in their living. Okay, and then next move on to the conclusions. We are coming to the conclusions of the first article. The first one is it is difficult to achieve a high quality investigations of the relationship between multilingualism and cognitive development. The authors admit that to have a a high quality investigation between bilingualism and cognitive development, it needs lifespan. It needs a big, wide investigation so that we can have a more accurate cognitive competence result. A large scale of unified program of multilingual and monolingual cognition research needs to be assessed from infancy through the old age. It is the thing that always been written in the articles that lifespan research of bilingualism needs to be considered in doing that. Okay, future bilingualism research should also incorporate genetics, sociocultural, and environmental factors. So besides you doing the performance task, neuroimaging technique, or having the hypothesis from bilingual advantage, we need to also analyze based on the genetics of the participants, sociocultural, socioeconomic status, and also environmental factors of the participants. Okay, now let's move on to the next articles, the second articles titled Early Executive Functions, the Influence of Cultures and Bilingualism. So overall, this articles is conducting about several performance tasks to find the cognitive control, cognitive competence from both bilingual and monolingual speakers. This is from Crystal Ditran, Maria M. Arredondo, Hanaka Yoshida in 2018. Okay, this is the outline of it. So the introduction is focusing on the executive functions, the EF processes, and also its relation to the cultures, bilingualism, additive effects, and also culture specifications from the participants and the overview of the research. The method consists of participants, measures, including the kinds of the performance task. There is also data collection procedures, but it is part of the measures, and also the analysis strategies. And next is the results and discussions, and as the conclusions is addressing discrepancies in cultures and bilingual literature and limitation. Okay, then let's move on to the introductions, which is about the EF. So executive function, or EF, is a set of cognitive mechanisms that enable the individual to control attention, monitor context, and select a relevant action to navigate through the task demands. So executive functions is also executive function processes is also one of the performance tasks in doing the bilingual research, and there are several tasks actually in finding the EF mechanism, and it is considered as one of the way to find the cognitive competence of the bilingual and monolingual speakers. Then the next cross-cultural studies have reported how Eastern and Western cultural practices EF process differently. The Eastern and Western here is not only about the countries, not only about demographic issue, but also about the cultures between Eastern and Western. Okay, from the point of view of the authors, the Eastern is called collectivistic or collectivism cultures. It is pointed out to obedience So authority figures interdependence among peers, strict academic training, structured instruction in self-regulating, and less focus on the importance of recreation. Very significant focus on the Eastern cultures. Yeah. And then Western, which is called individualistic cultures, indicate value practices of individualism, independence, self-expressions, and recreation. So the Western is actually the opposite side of the Eastern cultures. And here I am between Eastern and Western, collectivistic and individualistic will be part of the discussions, findings, or analysis from the authors from this research. Okay, now let's move on to the bilingualism and executive functions. So actually, the authors want to relate between executive functions and bilingualism. Is there any effect on the cognitive development or cognitive processes between bilingual speakers and executive functions? And the authors seek about it in the several EF tasks, which require multiple dimensional shift. One of the executive function task is called dimension card sorting, or DCCS. This is one of the performance tasks using the cards. Okay, so the participant have to show the cards that is being instructed in regard to the shape and also the colors of the cards. And also, DCCS is relevant to the way bilingual children learn and process two languages at the same time. Okay, and this one is the several EF tasks that were conducted in this research. There are the DCCS, day and night, bear and dragon, and give delay. All of these tasks are seeking for the cognitive processes. Okay. Now let's move on to the additive effects of bilingualism and cultures. The additive effects here means the combinations between bilingualism and the cultures, and they want to find is there any relations between bilingualism and cultures. So additive effect is considered in terms of the combined effects of bilingualism and cultures, where the processes inherent in bilingual's cognitive control ability and in Eastern cultural emphasis enhances EF performance. This is from Young 2011. So actually, Young in his research stated that Easterns have more. EF outperformed the Western in EF performance task. And the next is, in the study, the countries were taken considerably based on the differences in cultures, SES, the language used, geography, and education. Because besides the performance task, the performance task, the authors also analyze the ESES from the participants, the geography, and also the educations. Okay, now let's go to the overview of the study. The study includes three countries: US, Argentina, Vietnam. All of them represent Western, Latin America, and Eastern cultures. It means that every research, every experiment is done in US, Argentina, and Vietnam. All of these three have the native participants from US, from Argentina, and from Vietnam. The first hypothesis is bilingual advantage effect may be more sensitive to cognitive control processes typically required in tasks involving different roles and dimension. It means that bilingual speakers will be outperform the monolinguals in different roles and dimension. The culture effect may be attuned to respond inhibition processes typically found in single dimension. In single dimension, we will find in bear and dragon task, and then give delay. On the other hand, different roles dimension we can find in DCCS, day and night task. And then the potential combined effects of the bilingualism and cultures may appear in task measuring response inhibition, specifically when Eastern culture is considered. So again, the authors hypothesize that Eastern culture will outperform NEF tasks, especially bilingual speakers. Okay. Now let's move on to the methods of the task, method of the research. First, the participant, there were 96 participants, and with the average years of 3 years old. Both of the participants are monolinguals and bilinguals, but the monolinguals, in Argentina, the participants are only monolinguals. On the other hand, US and Vietnam, the participant is both bilinguals and monolingual. The research time is 3 separate sessions in every 6 months. So every country spends every country has the same experimenter. So it needs several times, sometimes to have each country done, and so that is why every session takes 6 months. It took 1 year and 8 months to have it. And then this is the way they measure. The first one is DCCS task. DCCS task is the task using the card in according to the shape and the what is it the colors. Meanwhile, day night task is also about cards, but this is only the two cards, day cards and night cards, and the participant were instructed to show the opposite of the opposite cards from the instructions. So if we say the day card, they have to say and they have to show the night cards, and then vice versa. If they are instructed to have night card, they have to show the day card. Okay, and then Bear Dragon, almost the same like day and night. This is the opposite, yeah, the opposite stimuli. But the difference is only the verbal instructions. They have just to follow what Mr. Bear instructions, but they have to refrain themselves to move when Mr. Dragon say. Okay, then gift delay is actually about giving the gift from the experimenter to the participant, but it is unwrapped. So the experimenters need 60 seconds to wrap the gift, and the participants should refrain themselves to pick. Yeah, they have to look away, and they have to refrain themselves from picking the gift. Okay. Besides the performance tasks, the authors also give some questionnaires to the parents related to SES, socioeconomic status, and children's health questions, and also MacArthur Communicative Development Inventory or MCDI checklist related to the way the bilingual speakers are being raised in their home. Research analysis is using the same experimenter, so that's why it takes 6 months. Okay. Statistical analysis and also linear mixed model analysis to find the categories, relations between bilingualism and the cultures. Okay, now move on to the result. In BCCS, overall, bilingual outperform the monolingual, and in BCCS task, bilingual children outperform monolingual children over. There were no main effects on cultures on this task. Significant parameters estimated for Latin America. So actually there is, even though this is bilingual children outperform monolingual, but actually there is no significant effect or relation between bilingualism and the cultures. Day and night tasks, children from Eastern cultures outperform children from the Western and Latin America, and the tasks support the hypothesis about potential additive effects of bilingualism and cultures and response inhibition. Only in the day and night tasks, it is found about the relation between bilingualism and the cultures. On the other hand, Bear and Dragon test, children's performance improved significantly with age, but there were no significant effects between cultures and bilingualism. So in the Bear and Dragon test, there were no winner and Eastern and Western, because this is related to age. The older age the participant, the more accurate the answer. Okay, given delay task, is children's performance increased significantly with age, with bilingual outperform monolingual. So older participants and also bilinguals got the more accurate given delay task. There were no main effects on cultures, SES, time and language, or cultures interactions in this give and delay task. So again, like DCCS, there is no relation between bilingualism to the cultures, bilingualism to the SES, bilingualism to the time and the language. Okay, now let's move on to the discussion. We are coming to the end of this uh, presentation. So a large bilingual effect can be found in tasks that require multiple cognitive processes. So actually, the research supports the bilingual advantage hypothesis, but in just multiple cognitive processes. Okay, because there are several cognitive processes, not only multiple, but also there were also single cognitive processes, and the bilingual uh, bilingual advantage hypothesis supports in multiple cognitive processes. The potential global nature of bilingual cognitive advantage can be raised when factors such as SCS, vocabulary knowledge, and bilingual language characteristic are carefully controlled. So that is why the authors analyze not only the performance task but also the questionnaires regarding with the SES, with the help of the participant and also developmental approach to control uh, the cognitive competence that will be resulted in this research. Cognitive processes involved in motor response inhibition, but not verbal response inhibition. Yeah, because the participant were 3 years old, averagely, it is very difficult to have them, to instruct them doing the verbal response inhibition. But in bilinguals and also in Easterns, it was very easy to have motor response inhibition. Response inhibition may be highly influenced by the cultural structure, especially collectivism, or from the Easterns. So that is why the Easterns, the research support the theory that Easterns outperform the Westerns in doing the EF task. Okay, another discussion is this one. The internal effect of bilingualism and culture may be more enhanced in Eastern group, which emphasizes on early behavioral regulation and impulse control. So I think because the research wanted to find the relationship between bilingualism and cultures, and it is found that Eastern group outperformed the Western group, and perhaps it is because the Eastern group are more collectivistic, they are more trained, and then they have self-regulating characteristic. So that is why the Eastern group outperform in this research. The authors admit that cross-cultural studies are never guaranteed to be bias-free. Therefore, attribution to the specific cultural traits need further investigation and specific tests. It means that the authors, even though they have SES analysis, developmental analysis, but they have to also analyze the cultural traits from each of the participants. Even though they have also conducted the cultural traits, cultural analysis, but this is before they start the research. So further investigation is needed in doing the bilingual research and bilingual and cultures. Okay, I think that is the end of my explanations. Thank you very much for listening to my explanations, and I provide you the questions. All of the questions are yes, no question. I only want to your opinions about your question, your answer. The first one is: do you think developmental factors should be part of bilingualism research in order to get a more accurate cognitive competence result? As we know in the first articles, that the authors propose developmental factors in doing the research, bilingual research, and I need your opinion about it. Do you agree of it or not? And the next one is: do you think EF tasks have been mutual methods to relate between cultures and bilingualism in bilingual research? Because as you can see that even though they are doing the EF performance task, but in several tests, they found no significant relation between bilingualism and cultures. So uh, I need your opinions about it if you want to conduct research related to bilingualism and cultures. So I think that is the end of my explanations. Thank you very much for listening my long presentation. I am sorry if I have mistaken in several explanations. Please correct me if there are if I got it wrong in doing the presentation. Thank you very much and see you on the meeting, everyone. Thank you.